Is regret good or bad? Probably 99 would say bad because regret feels like you failed. It feels like a stain or a pain you're supposed to avoid. But what I want to challenge your thinking on today is this. Regret can be one of the most powerful influences, maybe the single most influential factors impacting your future. Not because it feels good, but because of the immense power of what it can do for you if you use it. I want to tell you the story of what made me stop fearing regret and start to see it as a gift. Nearly 19 years ago, my sister Sue was diagnosed with stage 4 colon cancer that had metastasized to her liver. Inoperable, the prognosis wasn't good. I was living 1,000 miles away from her. And as treatments continued to fail, I went to work and I asked for time off without pay. And my boss said, no. I was in sales. I was a top producer. I could do most of my work with a laptop and a cell phone. So I proposed that I work remotely. And the answer was still a hard no. Sue wasn't just my sister. She was my hero and my best friend. She inspired me and she made sure I wasn't alone and would make me laugh when I was heartbroken. She was the first person I called when my ex-husband asked me for a divorce on Christmas Eve. She was the person who always showed up for me. So when it was only 4 months after her initial diagnosis that I received a call she was in the hospital and incoherent, I didn't care if I was going to lose my job. I got on a plane immediately. When I arrived at her bedside, I said, Sue, I'm here. She opened her eyes. She tried to sit up. She tried to speak, but her words came out jumbled. The nurses pushed me aside and sedated her. It was the last time she ever opened her eyes. And while my sister died with me and my family by her side, when I returned home, I was furious. Not just at my boss, I was angry at myself. As I reflected on my regret, I kept thinking, yes, my work robbed me of time, but I had let my life be built in a way that someone could block me. I made a vow that never again would I be in a position where work could keep me from where I wanted or needed to be. I put a plan on the calendar, and 3 months after my sister died, I was able to replace my income, quit my job, and become a full-time freelance copywriter. And over time, that one regret, the one that felt like a wound, it started to reveal something else. It had handed me direction and motivation. It was awful and a gift. Using that regret as a map allowed me to work while doing things like tour around the country with my son Dalton while he performed music for 6 years, and never miss a basketball game or a baseball game of my son Austin's. Travel to 36 countries and spend weeks and months at a time with my parents, despite them living 1,000 miles away. But here's the problem with regret. Most of us don't really want to look at regret because regret rarely shows up alone. It brings two bodyguards, guilt and shame. Guilt says, I did something wrong. Shame says, I am something wrong. And shame makes people hide. It makes us push regret away, Numb it, stay busy, scroll, overwork, pretend it doesn't matter. Even psychologists define regret as a negative emotion. So today, instead of marinating in regret, I propose we do something different. Let's separate the opportunity of regret from the quicksand it can become. Kind of pull the message out of regret without letting shame swallow you. I call this redemptive regret. Think of it as a reversal opportunity, one of the few chances in life you get to reverse your future right now by looking at something you regretted. You can use redemptive regret for direction without using it for punishment. Because regret can work like rumble strips, those grooves in the highway that vibrate when you kind of drift off the road. They're not there to shame you. They're there to wake you up before you drive off a cliff. And that's what regret can be. Not a life sentence, not a wound, a wake-up signal that is more like a tap on the shoulder. Here's what I learned the hard way. Regret isn't just pain, it's information. In fact, researchers have found something surprising. When people look back at their hardest regrets, they often describe them as useful because it helps them make sense of what happened and adjust their choices going forward, just like I did when I shifted my career to become a freelancer. And here's the part we don't talk about often enough. The regrets that tend to haunt us the most, it's not usually what we did. It's what we didn't do. The call we didn't make. The trip we postponed. The moment we assumed we'd have later. Research has shown that inaction regrets over time often grow heavier than action regrets. So why does it feel so sharp? Because your brain treats regret like a learning signal, not just an emotional bruise. Neuroscience studies show that regret and learning from regret are linked to brain systems that are responsible for evaluating what happens after we make choices and for helping us adjust our decisions in the future. In other words, when we feel regret, our brains are actually using that feeling to help us learn and make better choices next time. And it gets even more striking. Research on people with damage to the orbitofrontal cortex, that's the area in the front of the brain that's involved in weighing options and making decisions. These individuals have a much harder time experiencing regret or using it to guide their future choices, which means regret isn't a design flaw. It's part of the guidance system. So maybe we aren't supposed to eliminate regret. Maybe the purpose is to stop wasting it. Because regret can fuel you almost like a magic power, and it's only tragic when you ignore it. Right now, think of one regret, big or small, don't judge it, don't defend it. Just ask, what does this regret prove I care about? That answer is your opportunity for redemptive regret. So yes, regret hurts, but it also teaches. It can redirect you if you stop treating it like poison. So here's my invitation to you to find your own gift of regret using these 3 steps. Notice what regret is tapping you on the shoulder. Name the value. What is this regret proving that you care about? Now, this next part is the one that most people skip, but you're not going to. Put it on the calendar. Not someday, not when things slow down, because later is where what matters goes to die. The gift isn't the pain, the gift is the course correction. And I want to close with how my gift of regret came full circle. In February 2020, my mom suffered a traumatic brain injury. Several weeks later, the world shut down. Hospitals became locked doors. Facilities became places families couldn't enter. But because of the decision I had made 13 years earlier after my sister died, because I had edited my life back then, I could drop everything. Within 2 days, I was at my mom's side, helping her every day with anything and everything she needed, from cooking and cleaning to sitting with her to telling her stories in the middle of the night when she was terrified to go back to sleep. And when my mom took her last breath, instead of being alone in a facility, my dad, my husband, and I were there. She was aware we were there. And I want you to hear this part. Of course, I was heartbroken. Of course, I miss my mom. But that moment was redemptive because regret gifted me with the opportunity to make better choices, which then allowed me to be exactly where I needed to be when it mattered most. It allowed me to be more of who I really want to be. The love I have for her is amplified, my memories are clean, and the water isn't muddied by I should have or if only. So if you remember just one thing, remember this. Don't let a good regret go to waste.